Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to webinar. I think it's 161 or 162, 161, which Glenn Rathke will be discussing the calendar, not the calendar, but the organizer and the scheduler and out-of-the-box features for both, and everything about them. And he's been diligently working on this for a week to try to figure out all the things he can play with and do with it. But let's get through a couple of announcements now. We have two different sections for comments up here. We have a questions, and then we have a comment section as well. I would appreciate that as far as greetings and things like that. Let's keep that over in the comment section and let the questions be here for the questions, so that way I can manage the questions when people need to ask things about this, because this is going to be one that may have quite a bit of discussion about it, which is great. Glenn's going to go through all of these basics. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to turn it over to him and let him have at it. Appreciate y'all being here, and we're off and running. It's all yours, Glenn.
Okay, well, what I wanted to do was, as Andy had said, look at the organizer and scheduler, and the reason is it's just another way for presenting your data. So I think how we'll start off with this is show you what I started with before the organizer and scheduler, and then how we arrived there, and then talk about the different features. Now, I've been looking at that for the past couple of weeks in between things, and I'm still learning about this because there are just tons of features that are hidden that I wouldn't say are really documented. Some of them just happen to be there. So anyway, you can see on my screen here I've got a dashboard, and so the dashboard was a nice way to start at some point with presenting the data. But I wanted it kind of what I would say was a real-time view. So we created our scheduler picker over here. Now, the reason I have these different buttons is they do perform different tasks as such and have different features, but I also wanted to make it simple for my users so they didn't have to go switching different views in there. So the application that I have is case information, which I would consider to be the parent, and then under each case we can have like 24 different tasks. And we wanted to see, when are the tasks due, when is a case due, what is the duration for any of the tasks that we have. So that's what we have here. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll talk about how we arrived there and some of the pitfalls. So the first thing I want to do is let's take a look at scheduler cases by due today. And this will actually come up when I'm ready. It will position just on today, and that's the only cell that you will see. So let's just come on over here and look at some of these. So if I do a right mouse click now, and we look at the day, right, and I move around, this is what the user would see. So for any one case, which is like 85213, they would say, hey, this is what I've got today on my plate. So I will position on that day when we come in, and that's the only day they will see. So that's one feature we can look at. We also have, I'll do organizer tasks by task due date. Okay, so this is just going to show you when something is due. And I think this is kind of a nice representation of what you see here. Now, interesting, yesterday when I was working with this, all we were seeing is it would go from this time to this time, from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and you really couldn't see much, especially if I did it this way. Okay, you would just see times, and I'm thinking times mean nothing to me in here because it just has to do with a day. So we'll look at how we define the data and how it comes in here. But the one thing that we wanted to do was have like tasks colored similarly. So you'll see we have different shades of yellow, we have different shades of aqua and green and those things. So what we needed to do was define those. Okay. Then we not only have when something is due, and again, this is the same control, but now what we've done, and let me scroll over to that data. Okay. Now you'll see how it spreads across the calendar itself. Now, What I wished that would happen here is they wouldn't have the dividing by the days. It would just go all the way across, one solid color. But again, this is the same data, and the difference between this and the previous one is we just define a starting day and an ending day, and they both happen to be different. Now, let's go look and see how that's how we set that up. And let me, yeah, I can end this. Okay, let's go to task by due date. Okay, we happen to be there. So this is the organizer, and the organizer looks like a calendar, right? Well, what's kind of cool in here is they actually give you different views. And so if we go and look at the description and we look at the style, you'll see that's what a day looks like. That's what a week looks like. And this is the month where it looks like. Okay, so that's how you define styles in here. Now, here's the whole crux that you have for both, whether it is an organizer control or a scheduler control. When you go to the Content tab, you will see that we have these three things here that have a star. This is required, the bare minimum that is required to get data into a scheduler or organizer. You give it a title, you give it a start date, and you give it an end date. And so for our example here is we're actually using a query. Because what happens is if you want to display multiple information, say like on the title, right, all you really can do is you pick one field and you're going to put it there. Okay, yeah, we do have an option, just like we do in tables, where you can have multi-link tables, and then you can grab a field from here and a field from there. Well, what I wanted to do was have a case number and a patient full name, where we concatenate the first name and the last name, etc. So that's why I build a query, so I can do all of that in the query itself, set my parameters for the query so it limits the data, right? And then the scheduler or organizer actually shows that. So for here, that's our title, and our start date, we will give it a starting date, and then we will give it an ending date. And if you want it to be the same date, and I actually see I have the wrong one here, if you just want this to be when something is due, you would make this field here, right, and this one here the same date. And so then it would just end on that day. If you want to have a duration, right, then we select a starting date and an ending date that are different. Now, one of the things that I had just looked at last night, and I actually woke up this morning thinking, oh, that's how you do this, is in the organizer, it was showing a starting time and an ending time. And I'm thinking, like I said, that doesn't make sense to me. So I figured, what if it were an all-day event? You know, it's one of those things, aha, I'm not as smart as I think I am, because it was showing the wrong information, or not what I wanted. As soon as I put in an all-day value, and for me it could just be any value that's greater than 0, it automatically then, instead of showing the starting time and ending time, it shows the date that it's in. So let's take a real quick look at this again, and I'll run it from here. Okay. Okay, let's just move through the calendar, and this is old data. So that's, now you'll see that it's not just showing a starting date or a time and an ending time. It shows the date, and then here's what I put in that field. I put in that case number and the person's name. What I'm finding, there are some properties in here that we don't have full control over. So for me, it makes no sense to see that, hey, it's 7/28, right? I can tell it's 7/28 because I'm actually in the calendar on July 28th. So I don't know why they show that. I wished we could get past that. And maybe there's something I'm missing, but it seems to be that there are default values that you've got. Okay. As we move through these different entries here, you'll notice that I've got a tooltip, right? And you'll see that it's got actually 3 pieces of information. It's a T13. Let's go back to that. It's a log in reviewer report, and it's an 85-152. Okay. So let's just end this. Let's go back and look at the content. Content is pretty much where you're going to spend most of your time, I think, defining this. And so you'll come down here, and you'll see that we have this field is coming from the query. It's the task code, description, and case number. And so you can make that anything different than what you've got up top. So we've got these 3 required fields up top that we absolutely have to have. We have an identifier, right? And so I would put the primary key here because this lets you go and edit a record if you want. And then you can actually put in what content do you want it to show up, depending how you're looking at that in your, what type of view you're looking at. You have an author, location, guest, category, importance, note, and image. Those really don't come into play so much here in this view of the calendar. Well, they'll come into view as if we're going to use an internal window. So let me just quickly show you that, and then we'll break just for a second and see if there's any questions with this. And by using that internal window, it'll also change or hopefully change something for us, which I'll show you. Let's go here, get to the data. You'll notice in here, you see I've got a dark color and I've got text that's black on here, and I do not like that. Well, there's really no way to change the color of that text, believe it or not, that I know of in this view right here. If I do a right mouse click, though, I think, and maybe I
Actually, there is.
Okay.
I'll have to dig it out, but I can show you how to do it. But it's not going to be out of the box.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go to a different view on this, and that's what I'm trying to do. There's very, very little hand coding in here. Let's do task by. I thought I had this in here. Hold on a second. Let me just go double check. If we go to general, it is IW appointment. I'm not sure why it's not. Oh, before we go there, let me just show you one more thing. We talked about this. We go to content. Here is our brush color. And so we can actually define what colors do we want for any of the appointments that come up, and I'll show you that in a minute. But if I run this, oh, that's why. Okay. Okay, so I'm here at the appointment, and I go to do a right mouse click, and I want to go to a working week. Let's see if I can then show the data. That may not be a good example here. Oh, now you'll notice that the text is now white, right, instead of that darker color that is going to be on all of them. And so that's where we can't change that color, except Andy will tell us in a bit how we can do that out of the box, or not out of the box. Over here, and you'll notice that we go to details, general. Down here, internal window for the appointments. By default, you don't use an internal window. So it just uses whatever default that it's going to use. Well, what's really cool is you can specify an internal window, and it's going to look like this, right? And you can put the title here on the body, so it's really whatever you want to display, and this internal window will now take the place of what PC Soft is showing. So if you notice that our title changed from the black on the red background or blue background to a white. And so in your window, you just handle this like you would any other window with any other coding. And so here's what we've got. And I can actually check the color lightness of the brush color. And if it's here, if it's less than 60, then go ahead and let's make those text for the title and for the body, make that white. So that's kind of cool. You can substitute their look of the calendar, of what should be displaying in there for what you want to display. You could have graphics in there. You could have buttons in there. I believe you could do anything that you wanted to. The problem is, let's close this. The problem is it does not work in this view. It does work. Let's go here. It does work. Check that out in that view, right? And what's really nice though is when you're at a calendar, you can actually go and specify which way do I want to see this. Well, I wanted just the calendar view, and you can't use the internal window on the calendar portion of this, or on the day. You know, it's on the month. On the week and the day you can, and it substitutes it. Otherwise, no. So that changing the text color was a caveat I came across. So I just want to make you aware of that. I also, let's do this. Let's just go back. I also want to show you this on the details. Here you've got more, and this is kind of the GUI portion also, but here you've got more things of how you can configure your organizer to look. You can tell what day do you want to start on, so it could start on a Monday, and you could have 5 days if you wanted, right? How do you want to display the mask for the date? Just use it automatic as you've got in your project. You can display the day of display the week number, week 1 through 52, however they do that. And then like how you want to do appointments. Here it's it's offset, so it keeps moving down and over to the right. Or it would just keep going on top of each other depending how you set that up or change it through code. So just different things you could have put in here. Down here, where you're editing with the mouse, that's actually letting the user do some things. Whether you want them to change durations or dates or not. In my case, no, we don't want them to do that. So I just turn that off. So yeah, you'll spend time here, and you'll really spend time here. Okay. Now, to me, what made this work well for us is we're able to change the brush color. Now, here is where I had suggested the PC Soft, and because I was working with them yesterday because they had a couple issues which they were able to help me with. Which, by the way, let me say, I love PC Soft support. It really is very good. From the time you submit it to the time you hear back with free support, I think the response time is good. Regardless, they came back, answered some questions, and found we had a couple issues. So anyway, one of the things I suggested to them now, since you can't change the text color out of the box, I'm thinking, if you can change the brush color, why can't you change the color? So that's a suggestion I made to them from here. One of the issues we came across and found, and let me go to the month view if that helps, I'm not sure. Yeah, and if we go to, no, and it may be on the other scheduler. Anyway, I can kind of show it here. If we go to Caption for the days of the week, okay, and we make this for grins, let's just make it 72. You'll notice, yes, you can select 72, but it doesn't resize properly for this. So let's go back and really make something that's going to be meaningful. Let's do a 24. And again, you can't see it. So what we found was if you do not define it first, now you go back and you're going to make a change, right? Now it honors it. So that's a bug. Now, I'm still convinced that that is not 24 point for the days of the month, but at least it holds it and it works. So that's something they said they'll address and we'll take care of. Okay. Now, just one more thing and we'll open it up for some questions. Let's run this from the beginning so we can look at this and see what's going on. Let's go to the scheduler. Let's go task by task due. Go back here to refresh what we're looking at. And that, actually, I want to change the month. Sorry about that. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so now the question is, how do we come to these colors? Because these colors are all custom colors defined by the user, which makes it nice. Now I never have to be concerned about, oh, what color is this going to be or this be. I let them do that. I have a screen where I actually let them pick colors. I define all my standard colors or default colors here, and then I let them go, and these are all empty, and we let them pick a color right from here, and it saves it in the table for us of all our custom colors. So now if I want to select a color, I click on it once, that now becomes my new color for task 01. So every single task can have separate colors, and my thought was any tasks that are similar in nature, like where you send out invoice number 1 and then you have to send out a second copy or a third copy of your invoice or whatever it happens to be, make them similar colors. So then when you go into the scheduler and organizer and look at your data, it makes sense to you. So I just want to show you that's something that you can do. Nothing, no magic here. I mean, this is really simple. Neat. Yeah. Well, if anything, as I was telling Andy before, it's a sales gimmick. It looks good, right? But sometimes that glitz, that's what you have to have. So anyway, it translates well into that organizer and scheduler, and it really makes sense, I think, to the users because they define the colors. They know what they're looking at. They don't have to learn my color scheme. So, any questions on the organizer at this point?
I want to go back to the internal window because I
yes.
Let's take another look at it. What you were doing with the internal window.
Yep. Looking at this. Okay, so this actually was, and I changed the color. Maybe not. When you go to the internal window and you say what you want to use one, and if it's not there, it actually asks, "Do you want to create it?" And it created this window for me, which was kind of nice.
So this is the appointment detail window when you do the editing.
Yes, but it also, when you just look at it, it gets used at one view when it changed all the background colors of the text from black to white.
Okay, that's the part I'm missing there.
I don't know how that. I do not know how.
You're saying that this is also the block that displays the information on the organizer.
Yes, but not at the month view. At the week and day.
Week and day and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you have full control now over what it displays on the calendar itself, as far as the appointment, as what you're doing here.
Yes. Unfortunately, yeah, it's really neat. Unfortunately, you don't, like I said, you don't have that at the month view. And I was thinking, why
I
not?
don't use the month view anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, all they need on the month view is an overall. That's not really.
I know, but my point was I can't get rid of the black text and make it white text, make it conditional.
Okay, so well, you can't do that out of the box. I can show you how to do that, in code.
Right.
But because I had to do it.
Okay.
But this right here is very interesting.
Very interesting, yeah.
Well, the reason why I say that's very interesting, one of the items out of the box, or there's actually two items out of the box. One is specifying a particular icon to show up based upon a condition.
Yeah.
And the other one is the importance flag.
Right.
Which puts a little icon or something on it, is what it does.
Okay. And, yep.
And with this, you can have certainly more control. Mm-hmm. It seems to me you can have a lot more control over the icon placement,
yep.
The icon type, different things like that, than what you would normally trying to get it to stick through the code. I mean, this gives you some conditional stuff on the internal window.
Right, it's really cool.
And what kind of underlying code is in this? If you hit F2, just so they've got the code of what they're doing.
Right, just for those controls.
Cool.
Because you see they're passing the appointment to it.
Yeah, so I'm just sending the appointment, then you can do whatever you want with the appointment.
That's exactly right.
Well, that opens me up a few dozen doors.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I heard back from them yesterday, and they said, "Oh, by the way, just use an internal window." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I said, my organizer is in an internal window, and I'm missing something. He goes, yes. Yeah. We're talking internal window. So, which, though, by the way, this is interesting, because if we come down, and PCSoft has really got good examples. Sometimes we think they don't go far enough, but at least they've given us something. So, if we go here, am I going to find it here in examples? Otherwise, what I do is I open it and I search on that. They have two organizers. here we go.
You got the scheduler there, and you got an
Yeah,
organizer there,
right.
right?
And actually, they have two organizers. If you go when you do this guy, you do Welcome WinDev, and you
Yeah,
search on that,
yeah,
it brings them up, and they're very nice examples. They're actually
yeah,
shown using Outlook and in
yeah,
Google and other stuff.
yeah.
So,
I've embedded Google into them before.
yep,
You know, get the Google Calendar and push it back out to the Google Calendar.
right,
But I just, when you said the internal window, and then I thought it was just a pop-up to edit the appointment itself,
right.
and that's just not the case. That's interesting. That's
Right.
interesting.
Now, the only other code that I've added right now, really, and you can see there's some code right here for deleting. When you create the control on your window, it writes that code for you. So there's automatically, if you want to delete your appointment, the skeleton shell is there. But I wanted to be able to double click on an appointment and go to my regular form and do the editing.
Right.
So
Right.
this is all that it took, right? You're just going to do an hread seek first on your, or whatever you want to do. I bring the record up, I go to my form, it's in the buffer, I've got it. Now, you'll notice that there's some events that aren't here like we're used to with a table or a looper. In other words, there is no one's event like when the data is displayed, right? That's what that internal window does for you.
Yeah, that's well. See, there's the issue. I've had some deals looking on that display type, and I've had to make some workarounds. I thought because I didn't see the internal window, so that's going to open me up some doors. Now, there's a lot of code that I do inside those embeds dealing with because your part of your issues that you can run into here is if I move an appointment from Tuesday to Wednesday, well, then obviously I want to update all of the information for that appointment in the record structure.
Right.
So you have to use those embeds to set those.
Yeah, and I can see that. For our use here, we're not letting them move things. But in a regular scheduler, I understand that. Yeah. Now, what I'm still trying to figure out, so you see that I have to write the code there, and I did it on a double click. The interesting thing, let's see if we can run this. The interesting thing with that is, first of all, they let you edit an appointment, and I don't know where. Let's do this. The month, so I can see. I don't know where you say what window you want, because if I do a right mouse click, you'll see where it says edit the appointment. I don't know where you associate edit the appointment. My guess is I should look at the pop-up menu for that.
The only way that I've done that is inside the embed points.
Yeah.
There is you'd have to show me again because.
Oh, is there an embed point that says edit the appointment?
Yes.
So instead of
I get the ID number and I literally get the record and call up my own form.
So it's the same thing. I just need to move it out of the double click into.
That's correct. Now you can reference any of the AAF numbers. Now there's a few of them that can get in the way depending upon what you want to do. So what I've done with those is created my own little pop-up with the exact same wording on there as the AAF, and then do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So there's a few things on the AAF that I think that they need to open up.
Right.
That they currently have locked out right now.
Okay. So here's what I was talking about. You see how this is the black type on here where you can't read it? If I now go to my working week, and that is what, the 9th of November. So where are we at here? Oh, yeah, that's going to give me an error, I think. Yeah, because I'm not calling it from the main portion.
Right.
What it would do is that would use that internal window now, and it knows to grab that title with that white, because it needs to be changed to white, and it would change it. That's the advantage of that. With that internal window for me, so it knows what to grab. Were there questions?
The way I did the different colors is actually created a font and assigned the font.
Assign the font to
the as you were loading the records.
Yeah.
There's one, and it's kind of a funky way to do it, but you know, I'll have to dig out the code and show you.
Okay, and we'll see if that could. Okay, I don't know how well that happens with out of the box here. Maybe
it's not going to be out of the box.
No. I understand yours is, and then I got to see how that works with this. Yeah, I mean it's just a control.
Yeah, you might be able to translate it out of the box, but you know, this is.
I know. I'm fine with a little coding with this. I'm trying to do.
I have used, you know, like you're using a query.
Yes.
I have used the classes with it, and
exactly.
I just use the array of the classes with it.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
It works out nicely there.
Right.
Direct connection is I don't really prefer that because I think it you know has some problems, but used to back the first version of this back in 16 or so, 16, 17.
Yeah.
I hand coded everything for it.
Yeah.
And then got into the classes and was able to use the array bit, and that works nice. There is another thing that you can do that later on, after we get through some more, we'll get with you and do some advanced stuff on this.
Yeah.
That will actually let you block out in background available areas.
Okay.
So like if you have another schedule,
right,
that says I'm available from 3 to 5 and today and 8 to 4 tomorrow.
Yep.
Then in the background you can block out for that person a certain color for the appointments and not allow people to put appointments for that individual outside that color.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it is pretty nice.
Yep. Yep. Were there questions on the organizer?
Anybody have any other questions out there? I know I've been yapping away.
And if not, we can just move to the scheduler, because I mean, in programming wise and setting up wise, they're similar, but you can see they look different.
Okay, if anybody pops something up, I'll let you know. But let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so this now becomes a scheduler where you're scheduling resources, and for me, it happens to be the cases that you're working with. And again, my query only returns cases that have data that we're looking for. So anything that's closed, I don't care about. Anything that's got a task due with a case, yeah, we've got it here. So when you set this up, you can say, how do I want to display my resources? Do I want them on the left side, or do they want them on the top side, I believe? And I believe you just flip things around. But it's really neat in how they just handle all of that for us, and we just go our merry way of coding some things. And again, here there's very little coding. You'll notice that here I've got a T16 in the title, and here I have a description, right? Now, this is different compared to the organizer in that I can change my colors here at this view where I couldn't in the organizer. So little differences, but it's just another way of displaying the data. So if we go and look at a scheduler, yeah, I can hit that. So here we're at the scheduler. We go to the content again. You can see it's very similar. So now instead of 3 fields that are required, we have 4 fields that are required. And again, if you want to see something that's just due for today, give it the same date, right? If you want to see something that has got a scheduler by duration, then you just use 2 different dates here, and it automatically handles that for us. I mean, it's really simple. Out of the box, this is really simple to work with. If it meets your needs, great. I'm still learning this. I still have to maybe do some additional small bits of hand coding, but this is just a phenomenal tool they've given us. And again, they let us do the brush color. I'd like for them to say, hey, what is the text color, right? Just the color. To me, it would be simple to implement that. Makes it easy for us. So really, setting up the scheduler, setting up the organizer is pretty much the same thing. If we go over to details, you'll see we have kind of the same stuff again, right? We can actually say what our visible times are. We want to only show something from 7 in the morning till 8 at night, or we're working. We can change these here to make our blocks larger or smaller than what we're actually going to show. And then the number of days to display, we want to do this just the day or the week on 5 days. You know, it's just anything that you need to change in here from the GUI is actually pretty pretty nice. So there's really, as far as coding's concerned, there's not much anything different, and there's just a little bit different in design. So you've got two different ways of presenting your data. And then with the dashboard that we had shown before, you've got three ways to actually get summary data that's kind of meaningful. And then I think by throwing in those colors, that really makes it meaningful. So my next step to do is to actually put a legend down there at the on this window here. So when you click on something, you'll actually know what those colors mean. Now, any questions on that? I mean, it's really similar, but no questions on the scheduler here? I just wanted to quickly say just one thing, because I've had quite a few people, and I've seen some requests on the Hangouts. People say, what's the use of internal windows? And I think Andy, Pete, and we love internal windows.
Use them a lot.
A lot. And you can see that one area we just used before, an internal window within a control. Is that amazing or what? So you can change the look. But regardless, here is an internal window control. And so all these organizers and schedulers on the right are individual windows, and all we do is swap them in and out in this control here. So, I mean, there's various uses for this. It's great if you want to be looking at different data. If you've got, it works nice, really. If you want to do a browse and then you call up a maintenance form and it's right in front of you and you're not overlapping windows, it's kind of cool how you can do this. So, this is off topic. We're talking about internal windows, but let me just show you how simple it is to use internal windows, right? It takes one line of code. Change source window, give it the name of the control you're working with, give it the name of the window you want to call, and it's done, right? And then if you need to initialize something in that internal window, you can actually call a procedure in there to maybe set a query or whatever you need.
Yeah, you can actually execute procedure, internal window dot whatever color, whatever it is.
Yep, yep.
And the other thing about the internal windows, just kind of as a note, is that they actually become a little bit part of the outlying window, so you can access all of the controls from the main window that is also within the internal window by using the full name of the window that called it. So if you have a W main and it has the internal one, you can do W main dot and push some button if you wanted to.
Yep, just refer back to it. Yeah, that's cool. And as long as we're off topic on here just a bit, when you create a wizard and you either use a tab for a wizard or you actually can use internal controls or internal windows in here. And in some of my training materials, I just show the different ways of doing this. What's the advantage of using internal windows is if you have a team of developers, each one can be responsible for working on a different window that would become part of your wizard, and you don't have to wait for the thing to be checked in to work on another pane or plane or whatever you do. So internal windows are really cool, and they're working well for me with the organizer and scheduler too.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Just one thing about pushing a button. Just be aware of the fact that if you push a button from the main window frame to internal window, be careful. If it does not exist, it crashes the system.
Yeah, that's going the opposite direction. I was going from the internal window outwards.
Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right.
So you just have to make sure that you do a little test configuration which says if it exists, then push a button.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you use the function called if the window exists, then you can push a button. Internal window. So that's two ways of doing it.
Yep, those are good points. Anything else? Questions?
Last thing on the internal windows is with the new dynamic tab stuff they introduced in 20, it becomes even more important to understand how internal windows work and so forth.
Yeah. So. The dynamic tabs, I've done a few things with it. That can be a whole webinar all by itself.
I've created a little class to manage.
Okay, well then Pete's got the webinar on the end. You can put that on your list, Pete.
Well, the funny thing is, we had that feature, before it came out in 20, and we had to go back and rewrite our app because the one that they released was a little nicer than ours.
Yes,
so we had to go back and change some stuff. The nice thing was all I had to do was change my class code to use the native functions.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing about programming. If you break down your functions to a point where it does a single thing, that's why I end up coding, like example, update display or whatever the case is. And if something changes there, you go to the section which says up display, and then you change there. Then you've
That's correct.
That's what you should get into the hang of doing things, because if you have multiple places where you call to update, say example, a progress bar in different places, it's not a good idea. Rather do a local function or local procedure or method and say update progress bar, and then call it through that all the time. So if you ever should change it, you just got one place to change it.
Cool.
Okay. We got a question here. How well does the internal window in a WinDev translate into an internal page into WebDev? Pete, I'm going to give you that one from Mike, because I'm going to say it translates, but no, it doesn't translate 100%. So, Pete.
Yeah, internal pages are not anywhere near as powerful as internal windows, because the way a web page is built, it's all built when it's sent to the browser. So it's not like on WinDev you have the change source where you can change what internal window is being used and things like that. Internal pages are kind of more like a page template than they are internal window where you can dynamically change them and stuff. Now they still have some uses as far as being able to, if there's a portion of your page you're using in different places, they're useful for that. But for the most part, you can use a template, a control template, to accomplish the same thing. Now, the one thing that I did find that I used an internal page for that worked very nice is I have portions of my site, and I've talked about, I do a lot of sites that are what I call hybrid sites. The front-end marketing piece is AWP, and then there's a back-end piece where the users log in and do stuff that I'm not worried about having SEO abilities and so forth. On one of my sites, I needed to display some products. Well, those needed to be displayed whether or not the user was logged on. By putting that product display in an internal page, I was able to show that from both the AWP page and the WebDev dynamic page, and that worked very nicely, so that I didn't have to redo that page twice, one for AWP and one for dynamic. But yeah, they're not the same thing. Internal pages are not the same thing as internal windows.
I think this is going to do more with the browser limitation than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's another one of those things that it's not PCSoft's fault. It's the nature of the browser server way that the internet works.
I think the biggest thing you gotta do, and I've kind of learned this all about the PCSoft products, is that if you can make components out of things, now not necessarily a component as we call a component, but make smaller windows that you can use in multiple places, control templates, things like this, your productivity will certainly gain.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and Glenn has some of this in his training, and I think that would be an excellent topic for a webinar. Is there's so many options. There's internal windows, there's super controls, there's control templates. So all of them seem like they do the same thing, but they all do it a little different. So it's good to understand all of them so you know which is the best approach for what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
that is absolutely true.
I've got one caveat here that I had forgotten, and I'd like to show it right now. It really bitten me badly, and I'm thinking, let me just show you. If that's okay, we got a few minutes for that.
Yeah, we're good.
Let me run this, and you'll see that it runs and looks just like I'm expecting it to here. Right, I'm running it for this window, so it's great. If I actually come in and run it this way, my full way that I would, I think this is it, organizer task byte. Let's go there. Okay. Now you'll notice it changed on me.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what the heck? What change did I make that changed it here, but it runs fine if I run it the window from here? And I'm looking at that. I can't tell you how much time I wasted, and I do not know why it got changed in here. But there's this little checkbox that says storing the mode. It will. I'm working with Larry, and he's making these templates, and I go, Larry, did you make any of these templates? And what happened? What happened? And he did. I didn't change anything. It was me, but I don't know how it came.
Yeah, that same checkbox gets you in a lot of different areas. A lot of the controls have some form of that.
Yeah.
Remember last setting, remember last position thing that will drive you nuts.
Remember, you start thinking, oh, those darn click programmers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's usually, talking about that, it's in controls, in the tables, and everywhere. And usually, if you go to the details of the 8 tabs, where they say, usually like store position and selection, store user filters, store user sorts, and that kind of thing. That is usually telling you it's storing it away. And I tend to sometimes untick some of them because the guys reshuffle their tables. Like if they want to see something, they close down the column because I want to see more of the information.
Right.
And then they complain 2 weeks later, I can't see my phone number anymore. It's so narrow, and they don't seem to understand it. So what I do is I untick it, because when they go in and out, it's back to normal again.
Right.
So it's nice, but it's I get a lot more support cause of that, because people don't understand that functionality. Even though you can right-click on most of the windows and say, I can't remember what it says, restore size and position or something like that, and it does it for you, but most people don't know about it.
Yeah, I've gotten bitten on it when I add new features. You know, they'll ask for, we want phone number on the vendor browse. I do it, release it, and they say, well, we said we wanted phone number on the vendor browse.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
But it's restoring their old configuration.
Like example, in tables, you just go and untick the box, say store, position, and selection.
Exactly.
And that solves a lot of the problems. It's nice in certain instances, but not always.
If you like that feature, there is code that lets you capture that format string. So you can write your own code, and that's what I do with the default manager. Is I give the ability to store that, and that way now I'm in control of it. So on an update, if I know I need to reset them, I can reset them. So everything that's available on those checkboxes is generally available via code also.
Yeah.
That and all those all those settings get stored in your Windows registry, and I'm not always in favor of that. And I can't remember the place. You can actually go and change it and say store it in the XML file.
Oh,
and that's what I do. Because
once in a while, if
everything goes haywire totally, I just tell the guy, go to my program name, for example, the sms.exe, find the .xml version of it, and just delete it, and then it sorts all my problems out many times.
Yeah, we got a little bit of an issue. If anybody has been writing software for like Surface Pro, Windows Surface Pro, we ran into this yesterday. It won't write to the registry.
Oh, is that under Windows 10?
Yeah, but see, I can write to Windows 10 registry. I just for some reason on the Surface Pro I can't. Now I don't know if it's them or me or or they got a deal, but he said he's on it as administrator. So.
Are you sure that he's logged in as a user or administrator?
He said administrator.
If you want to get me a Surface Pro, I'd be glad to check it out.
Good move. Good move.
Funny, that's what I told him. Get me a Surface Pro, I'll fix it. Anyway, guys, we've been at this for an hour. Any other questions we have out there? Other than the general conversation we got going most of the time?
Nope.
Looks like that's it. That's it. I want to thank everybody for being here. A couple of announcements. We have upgraded the site for WINDEV US. It is now a new format courtesy of Pete Halstead, which we can all say thank you very much, Pete.
Well, we can also say thank you, Wolfgang, because he
Wolfgang is the one that gave us the original stuff. That's I love you, Wolfgang. Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry to berate you for a few days to get it, but I appreciate you doing it. Really, we do. That saved us a lot of time. Then we will be having online purchases for the products 2021 upgrades and stuff, that we should start seeing the PDF for the new features out soon, very soon. So we're getting things geared up. So if you want to order your upgrades and things like that, you can just go to the WINDEV US site through WExperts and just take care of it right there, and we'll get you going.
Yeah, right now we're showing you the prices. By the end of this coming week, I will have the actual shopping cart.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at WINDEV US versus windev.com, which is PC Soft site, you may notice some slight differences, and that's because all of our products that we're listing, if you're upgrading from 19 to 20 now, we're listing the product that will get you the 21 upgrade when it becomes available.
Right. So you don't have to rut row. You got 19 to 20, but didn't get 21 type thing happening.
Yeah. So if you're running 19, look on the site, and you can upgrade to 20 and get the 21 when it becomes available. So.
Yeah, Larry, you said the form's not linked. I'm thinking you're talking about the MySNP form, if that's the case. I got that yesterday. We're discussing whether or not that we're going to support that. We do Google Plus 99.9999% of the time, and the unfortunate thing is once we put that on there, we have to support it. So we're talking about it. That's about the best thing I can tell you. So other than that, everything is coming together. Obviously, the upgrade season is starting here pretty soon. End of March, mid-April is you can get the betas and start getting everything done. Definitely in March, you can buy all your upgrades for sure towards the end of this month. And we want to make sure that it's easier to do. There'll also be, for anybody to ask some questions, we want to start getting some information in there so we can help you ordering for next year. And we'll be putting that out as also to everybody. So I just want to say thanks for everybody for being here. Y'all be good or be good at it.
Enjoy.